No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele, Backwoods Southern lawyer. I've got my partners in crime with me today. Mr. Rip, are you out there somewhere?
Yes, sir, with the RIP report.
And Mr. Russian, you holding it down in Houston for us today?
Yes, sir. Lost in space. Looking forward to some good things in this weekend.
So you were at the helm. The first item of the day, we did a podcast yesterday, a legislative update. Senate Bill 46 is headed to the governor's mansion potentially. Isn't there one more vote left in the Senate, or did that happen today, Reins?
That vote was passed today. That was basically what's called a concurrent resolution, which means that the Senate voted on it first and passed it, then sent it to the House for it to be passed, and it goes back to the Senate per rules of procedure. That means that the Senate basically has to concur that the bill is in good enough shape as the one they passed to go ahead and send it on to the governor. It's a formality. There were just a few votes against, but the Senate ratified.
Awesome. So here's what we have to look forward to, and I'll let you take this.
Well, it's going to be about 18 months. And when we talked yesterday on our legislative update, one of the things that lobbyist and Alabama Cannabis CEO Shay Garrigan told us was that the 18 months is basically a chalk outline for what they're going to do. They believe it's going to go a little bit quicker than that once the big hump is taken care of. Once they jump the big hurdle of actually creating the Medical Cannabis Commission for the state of Alabama, proponents believe that it's going to move a lot faster than 18 months. I would say closer to 12 months. We'll see it in a year. What we can look forward to is Alabama is going to have legal production and prescription of THC in medicinal form in strengths less than 50 milligrams per dose. That's what's going to be out there. What we talked about yesterday was explaining what the 5 vertically integrated businesses that are going to be allowed. And that's basically from the ground up, from grower to dispensary. There'll be 5 of those businesses allowed, and they'll have 5 dispensaries each, depending on which county decides to adopt it. Now, there was a rider, an amendment to the bill that would allow for individual counties to say whether or not they wanted cannabis dispensaries in their home counties. That will be a small hurdle, but a hurdle nonetheless. There are going to be some counties that say, no, we don't want any. And I do believe that it'll be spread out enough among the just all throughout the state of Alabama, where the 5 dispensaries each problem is not going to be a problem at all. They're going to allow for 4 cultivation companies and 4 processors. Now, those are separate entities. 4 companies that grow it, 4 companies that package it. The 5 vertically integrated companies will be able to encompass all of those things and open dispensaries as well. There will be 4 dispensary companies allowed with 3 sites per. So there will be 12 sites allowed total for the 4 dispensary companies that are independent of the others. There is not going to be more than a 45-minute drive to find medical cannabis in the state of Alabama within the next year. Now, the establishment of the Medical Cannabis Commission is going to be a big hurdle because there's going to be a lot of politics involved in who gets on that board.
Right.
Despite rumor to the contrary, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board of the state of Alabama is not going to see oversight over medical cannabis. So they're going to form an independent commission that's going to have to set up its own regulation and enforcement. So you can see a lot of bureaucratic red tape being the main holdup to you getting medicinal THC prescribed to you by a doctor.
Hey, Reins, let me ask you a question. Pop quiz. How many dry counties are there out of the 67 in Alabama? Do you know?
I don't know that.
I don't either, but it's probably fewer than 10 left if I had to guess.
And this marijuana bill is up. Medical marijuana bill now is going to be going to Ivy, and that's in spite of 2 different articles that Lanyap wrote. One, caveman type wording letter from 23 Alabama district attorneys opposes the medical marijuana bill. The thing that upset me about that was they waited till the very last minute just to try to derail it. 23 district attorneys, including Mobile County's Ashley Rich, which I was very surprised, and Baldwin County's Bob Wilters, which I was not surprised at all about. And I like where Jay Garrigan, Executive Director, Alabama Cannabis Industry Association, called the letter weak and said the authors of it are speaking out against the will of the people of Alabama. If they're still using gateway and other caveman type wording, they might as well have chiseled it on a stone wall, Garrigan said. They're just trying to derail a bill. Well said. And then, Rob Holbert's damn the torpedoes, missing the logic of the DA's medical marijuana stance. He weighs in on it the same way, but he closes out in the end by keeping Alabama from having access to medical marijuana, and adjacent states have it just the other way of ensuring our state is once again last, or maybe we're first. And not giving a damn about the people who need help either way is just not logical. So let's hope that Ivy signs it and we get past this hurdle, which will take us out of last place on something. How about that?
It's about time. I do believe that there's not going to be any hangups for Governor Ivy to sign this piece of legislation. She did, after all, back in 2016, sign a bill that was passed that would allow children suffering from certain seizures to be prescribed CBD oil as a treatment. So she has not indicated that she is against this bill. And I can tell you now that if there were any reservations that the governor would not sign this bill, that would have been front page news all day today. Yeah. So I'm confident that Governor Ivy is going to sign it. Now, to assuage some of the fears, if you move on to the next slide, let's talk about some of the things it's not going to do. There is absolutely no path to recreational legalization with the passage of this bill. And people, we need to get this out there and really bring down the fear level of so many people that believe that this is the path to legal marijuana. It's not. This bill, as a matter of fact, in its language, says that we are not a path to recreational legalization and uses certain legal terms that says we cannot be used as such. Recreational legalization is another planet compared to this bill. And that's the first thing that Shay Garrigan will tell you, is that this is not opening up the floodgates and allowing marijuana throughout the state of Alabama. That's not what it was intended to do, and it's not what it's mechanically designed to do. This doesn't allow for any form of smokable medicine. So you're not going to be able to get a prescription. You're not going to be able to get a prescription for, an ounce of sticky ooey gooey. No, you're not going to have retail sales. No gas stations are going to be able to sell medicinal marijuana. Walmart's not going to be able to sell medicinal marijuana, and you're not going to be able to go down to Walgreens and buy you a pack of HS Blunt 120s. It's just not going to be available. There is no creative medical condition for this. Most of the amendments were extremely clear, and most of the committee work on this bill was done to establish exactly what conditions you could get prescribed medical marijuana for. You're not going to be able to come up with some, I've got sudden fecal astigmatism or just something ridiculous like that. Doctors aren't going to be able to get away with that. You're not going to be able to go to your doctor and say, I have sudden traumatic fissures that need to get prescribed gummies for. No, it's very specific what things can be prescribed and what can't.
Well, last couple of weeks while I was in Mexico, they have passed now a recreational legalization of up to 1 ounce. And I forget the revenue stream that they expect, but it was kind of interesting to see because people sitting on the beach, rolling up a smoke and enjoying themselves, drinking a Corona and not bothering anybody. So I can see that happening later on, not in Alabama, maybe, but
maybe not in Alabama.
But sooner or later, people are going to start looking at the revenue that's being developed by these different states and say, hey, wait a minute, we really are cutting our throat. But of course, in Alabama, we can't even get a gambling bill. So it'll be a long time before they recognize that about marijuana.
So two
Absolutely.
things.
I think yeah, go ahead.
So Paul missed one thing on the letter from the district attorneys. It was joined in by Attorney General Steve Marshall. Hilariously.
Oh,
And the other thing that I can tell you is I can go through this list right here, and I can tell you where these 5 vertically integrated businesses are, and I can tell you where the 4 cultivation companies are going to be, and I can tell you who the 4 processors are going to be, and I can, it's
okay. I tell you what, I want you to write them down.
Okay, we'll put them in an envelope, put them in my safe,
and give them to Reins. Yeah.
Yeah. We could do an old Johnny Carson bit with that. You know?
Yep, right.
See what was that. Yeah,
well, I can tell you who are going to get all of these licensures right down the line.
Okay. Well, write it down.
Okay. So highlights of the 2021 regular session.
Well, it was a barn burner of a session, I got to tell you, and it's winding down today. In about 10 minutes, they're going to gavel it down. And here's a couple of highlights that I thought you viewers out there would find interesting. There was a lot of work done in Montgomery this session, a lot of hard work done, but there were some ups and downs, and let's talk about them real quick. Yeah, sorry, dog. The gambling bill is dead. The gaming bill that was put out in its particular form that made its way through the legislature is pretty much a dead thing right now. It is. It had some signs of life late last night, but then Speaker McCutcheon decided that we needed to make it guess what? Just a lottery bill. But like we've said on this podcast, since this bill was introduced, if you can get it through, it'll just be as a lottery bill. Well, the Honorable Mac McCutcheon decided to introduce at 0 hour at about 9 o'clock last night the lottery bill. Now, whether that was his last-ditch effort to see it passed or his first-ditch effort to see it killed remains to be seen. What we can know is, next slide, that your Speaker of the House really wants a lottery bill. And as we've said before, time and time again on this podcast, if it comes down to a lottery, it'll make it through and end up on the referendum and end up on the ballot.
Maybe.
But by God, if you've got with shepherds like this, you don't need to import wolves. I can tell you that right now.
No kidding, man. No kidding.
What else happened in the legislature of note? Well, I forgot about good old Representative Peblin Warren from up there in Tuskegee. She summed it up absolutely perfectly. She said, if you don't have integrity when you're dealing with gaming, you need to give it up. And what I've seen in this room tonight, integrity is nowhere around. She said that at about 11 p.m. Thursday night while they were in the throes of trying to push this lottery bill through. And if there was a voice of reason in the Alabama legislature, it was the Honorable Representative Peblin Warren. Truly.
I could have said that about any bill that was passed this legislative session, but I'll give her credit.
Alabama will continue to export its dollars to other states.
Absolutely. Now let's get to the important part. The important part of this. Anybody get this joke that I made as the one-liner at the top? You have to read it out loud to get it.
If you go to the third period, you're namaste.
Namaste. So Representative Jeremy Gray, the Democrat from up in Opelika, finally told his fellow House members to not get it twisted as the yoga ban repeal had nothing to do with the sinister international Hindu cabal. As many of you may know, yoga has been banned in Alabama public schools since 1993, when it was determined that Hindu principles and practices would be too much of a strain on the fragile Christian values of the average Alabama student, and it was outlawed as something that physical education teachers could have as part of their core curriculum. The courageous Representative Gray led an appeal, and that vote passed, but there were dissents, and there were people speaking on the record about it. Most of them said we cannot allow a sinister Hindu cabal to infiltrate the bright and shining minds and hearts of the youth of the state of Alabama. But thank God, cooler has prevailed, and namaste. Yoga is legal in Alabama public schools, finally.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, now to the real, you want to talk about these people in Montgomery really just ground the grist. We have a new sunshine law. Does that make you happy? Guess what? Doesn't have anything to do with transparency in government. It basically adopts daylight savings time full time for the state of Alabama, because some of the more behind counties like, I don't know, Etowah and Baldwin have a problem with that whole spring forward, fall back thing. So now it's just going to be full-time daylight savings time. And they call it the Sunshine Law, which makes people in Florida look smart. So
well, you know, Reins, years ago, when I was living in Belize, they decided that they didn't like the daylight savings time. So they changed it. I'm talking about like just automatically changed it. Like on a Friday, they just said, well, we're just not going to do it. Right. Well, they forgot about the airport and all of the planes and all of that. Right. So about 2 or 3 days later, it hit national news, and everybody was talking about, well, that's just like a third world country.
So
Okay,
Reins,
folks, this is a third world country move right here.
so do y'all remember when the Olympics were coming to Atlanta and they came through the interstate system and pulled up all the mile markers and put kilometer markers down? And as soon as the Olympics were over with, they had to replace them all because nobody could find where the hell they were going. Everybody knew where the mile marker was or whatever. So anyway, that's what I imagine is going to happen here. Like Paul said, that all the damn flights will be screwed up and nobody will know when to show up at the airport. And, 3 or 4 missed flights by Senator Shelby and they'll change this shit back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for some reason, there's a picture of me here. House Bill 381 to make Shelby County sewer service a private utility service fall under the Public Service Commission. Because they use public right-of-ways, absolutely dead. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking about this for a while when the legislation got introduced, and of course, and Reins, you said this was debated feverishly, correct?
Feverishly, it actually got a lot of traction and was debated for hours and hours this session. So much so that they indefinitely postponed it, which in effect killed it. Now, Harry, could you just clue us in real quick as to why members of the legislature would not want a privately held utility company under the purveyance of the PSC?
No, I can't.
No, of course not, because Baldwin County Sewer Service is one of them. And if you don't think they've got some sway in Montgomery, along with all the other unregulated utilities in this state, you better believe that they do.
It's exactly how they want it.
If every bill that comes up about this particular issue is killed, murdered, decapitated, and drained of life,
and one day in Baldwin County, somebody's going to wake up and say, how in the hell did this happen that we are not have a regulated sewer system? And you're going to see such a mess that they won't be able to get the damn thing straight.
Oh, we'll have to, the courts will straighten it out, Paul. It'll be left to the adults in the room to figure it out.
Correct.
So, Reins, this is your hero for the session?
This is Brian Lyman. He is the state government reporter for the Advertiser up in Montgomery. His Twitter handle is @Lyman_Brian. And he made following all of these important bills extremely easy because he live tweets every single session of the Alabama legislature when they're really getting into something. And now I spent hours Wednesday and Thursday watching the Alabama legislature debate. And I may or may not be under the influence of several what I call recovery narcotics at this time.
Right.
Because it absolutely melted my brain. I forgot how bad it was covering the legislature. And this
like
guy,
paint drying, like watching paint dry.
No. Imagine like watching paint dry, but you're standing in an ant pile. That's what it was like. Yeah. And so you couldn't move. You couldn't go anywhere. You didn't want to miss nothing. God damn, these ants suck. Well, Brian Lyman made it bearable for me.
Okay, so
He made it bearable for me. He live tweeted all that stuff, and he is the guy. If you're looking for a source on Twitter to follow for up-to-date, awesome, objective, and often snarky, great reporting, look no further than at Lyman Bryan with the Montgomery Advertiser. That is your go-to guy. And I invited him to be on the show tonight, but he couldn't. He wanted to be, but he could not. He will probably join us in the future. And I am hoping that this incredible shout out and endorsement from three incredible geniuses like the three of us will further sway his positivity in that.
So what I like to do when I'm watching the Alabama legislature is make it a improper grammar drinking game. Every time one of our legislatures uses a double negative or improper grammar, I mean, you'd be drunk within 30 minutes if you did that. It really make it more enjoyable.
The Alabama legislature, I'd have been in an alcoholic coma after the first 4 hours.
There's some bad grammar up in that place. I'll give you that.
I ain't never heard nobody ever get OD'd on the marijuana. Representative Wendell Gavon, D, Birmingham. She had rhinestones on her face mask, man. That was pretty tight.
I was thinking.
Fuck her.
I was thinking more of like the Mo Brooks attorneys in the room who can't seem to string three sentences together with proper grammar. So, Paul, it's time for the Rip Report, dude. You got a bunch to cover.
Here we are back again with the Eastern Shore Metropolitan Bridge proposal. I forgot how many this is. And any of you that have been following this or know anything about Fairhope and Mr. Burrell, you will see more flip-flopping on this subject than you're going to see in doing pancakes. There's 2 articles this week on second thought: truck bridge in jeopardy, Baldwin County officials consider the full package. And this goes back to when Jack Burrell, chairman of the Eastern Shore, who appeared along with Mobile Sandy Simpson, endorsed the truck bridge last month. Now he says he's had a few weeks to reflect on the plan and now believes there's a more feasible way to deliver the full bridge and Bayway package in the single phase. He has said this 3 or 4 times and flip-flop back and forth, and that's going to continue. In response to the new proposal, Wiley Blankenship of the Coastal Alabama Partnership and Build the Bridge Coalition, I know, said he was surprised a little bit by both the truck bridge proposal and the news from ESMPO last week. He said all alternatives have already previously been studied, but acknowledged the infrastructure package proposed by the Biden administration may change things. Now, here's where I hope Mr. Burrell is listening. Blankenship said that Senator Richard Shelby, listen now, Jack, this is Richard Shelby, suggested Congress may lift its ban on earmarks, and the Mobile River Bridge proposal would be a valuable project for the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations to bargain with. But either way, Blankenship said the regional and state leaders need to have a proposal on the table to apply for the money the moment it is available. And that is the key point. If they stick around and the Biden infrastructure plan gets going and they get in there too late, then they're too late. Then there's another article that brings up a little bit more on the same thing: on the road bridge proposal opening for public comment. Again, this is on the bridge, and you'd have to go to these to see how they're flip-flopping around. But after us bringing this up about the Biden administration 3 or 4 times, it is kind of rewarding to finally see it get some traction. A financial plan will likely not be included in the amendment that Jack Burrell and them are coming up with. But new funding potential is available under the Biden administration that would allow eliminating tolling altogether or keep it low enough to be attractive to all motorists. Now, attractive to all motorists, low enough. You know, they went from no tolls, no tolls, no tolls. Now they're warming you up for a $2 or $3 toll. Any of the people that want to come and voice an opinion, which I may, just to emphasize that they do need to have a proposal at the Biden administration if they want to be included at that. But there is a meeting with the Baldwin County Satellite Courthouse in Fairhope on May 19th, 5:30 to 7:30, and public comment is welcome. So I hope that those of you that are interested will show up and, take part in that.
Hey, Paul, can I say one thing? The
Yeah.
idea that we don't have enough money in the state of Alabama to build our own bridges without a toll or build our own decent prisons without them being privatized is a bunch of bull crap.
Right.
For the
Absolutely.
record. For the record.
Absolutely.
Right. And I mean, it's just an excuse, Okay.
Hey, there's a pretty picture of your casino, if you noticed that in the foreground. The Maritime Museum, man.
Now, Maritime Museum is a perfect spot for a casino, would make Mobile millions. And here we go again. If we don't have the highway plan, we have the waterfront plan. This has been going on now since November, or the last election, and the city now has abandoned the idea of any stabilization of the bluff above South Beach. Now, if I'm correct, the grant was given for the stabilization of the bluff and to become ADA compliant. The city is also saying, or trying to play semantics with the ADA compliance, saying the top of the beach, the top part has ADA compliance, the bottom part is ADA compliant, and there's nothing that says that one park has to be connected to the other park with ADA compliance. So we'll see how that goes. But the let's see. One thing I did find interesting was that, the mayor is disagreeing with the council. The council is disagreeing with the city attorney. The city attorney is advising them to leave the ADA ramp in the scope of work. I think the city attorney sees that that's also one of the criteria. And that is what is going to be a problem there is you can't apply for a grant, say what you're going to do, then get the grant awarded to you, and then change everything on the grant. If I was another city and I saw this going on, I'd be raising hell and say, hey, wait a minute. You gave them the grant on the basis that they were going to do this. And
Paul, that's a very magnanimous statement to make about the federal grant writing process. Having worked for many nonprofits, I can tell you right now, there is a whole lot of wiggle room when you get a federal grant as to what you wrote for, as to what you produced.
Okay,
believe you me.
But let me lay it out to you like this.
There's quite a bit of opposition involved now from community too. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so when you apply for a competitive grant, and it's got to meet certain criteria, right? Like this one. So they said they were going to spend $6 million on this project. They got the grant awarded. So now, completely unfair to everybody else who had to competitively compete for this money, they're going to bust it up and spend some of it over here and some of it over there. Who the hell says they can do that? And what makes them think they're going to get away with that? I mean,
they're taking money, they're shifting money from the object of the grant to now doing repairs on the pier that had nothing to do with the original grant.
But what I'm saying, I'm not worried about anything happening here. I'm talking about at another damn site 5 miles away to build a boardwalk.
5 miles away? Gentlemen, look to the east. When in 1998, the state of Mississippi awarded a multi-million-dollar tidelands grant to Harrison County, Mississippi, and $1 million of it went to build an aquaculture farm in DeSoto County, Mississippi, which is about 5 hours from the coast.
Right. Nothing surprises me, but what I'm saying is it's completely unfair to the other cities who had to compete with Fairhope for this money for them to be able to change the scope of what they applied for. It seems like they'd have to sit it out and wait for another round to go Mesa grants.
And I was pointing out,
fair is where you go to get funnel cakes.
That's
in politics.
I was pointing out on the bridge how Burrell will switch and change as he sees the wind changing. He's doing the same thing on this Fairhope Pier. He's quoted as saying, "The ramp seems like a good idea, but I'm not married to it. If there's a better way for the parks to be accessible to everyone." So what he's saying is, okay, I'm okay with this, but if something else comes along, I'll be okay with that. So,
that's exactly what he's saying.
That's exactly what he's saying. Okay, another little tidbit in the news on this, to proceed with caution, that I thought was interesting is Municipal Judge Hames Snedeker and his business partner Ray Hicks through Gayford Village Partners plan to develop the existing agricultural parcel that they got catty corner to Walmart on 181. Now, this is a monster piece of property, and the city judge is now the largest developer and landowner in Fairhope. He's appointed by the council. He has to be approved by the council, and on top of that, he is breaking one of the canons of judicial justice by becoming high profile and controversial.
Well, no, the thing is the appearance of impropriety. While Hames Snedeker has jack all to do with anything the city council does, he's hired to run the municipal court and to squeeze money out of people who do bad things.
Right.
That's his job.
You get the responsibility in Alabama. Why start now?
To the tune of about $350,000 a municipal court produces to the general fund. Another interesting tidbit was the arts and crafts show went off. They had a very good weather, excellent weather, and a pretty good showing. The merchants that I talked to were highly critical that the thing was limited only to Alabama vendors, because they said it didn't really give a lot of diversity with the vendors, and I could see their point. So
yeah, I could see their point for not letting people from out of state come here and sell their wares too during a pandemic. So,
well,
I'm sure that was their number one consideration.
Listen, the merchants downtown, that's one of their busiest days, man. They're looking for crowds. The crowd was about a third the size, and I could see what they were saying, because there was a lot more of the same type of things, like jewelry booths. There were tons of them, but when you get these international artists in, you do get a lot of really unique things that you don't see quite. They bring in a lot bigger a show, and COVID had a lot to do with it. But I thought the show was good. It was friendly. It was a beautiful day. Everybody was out. Very few were wearing masks, but it looked like a good time for everybody anyway. Some of the vendors just ticked off, and also some of the vendors. Go ahead.
What's going on with Chris Elliott, Paul?
Oh, let's see here. Gosh darn it, I just moved this thing around. Yes, we're talking about the Chris Elliott fortification bill. That's what it should be called, is the fortification bill. But
hey, guys, I need to interrupt for 1 second, because Alabama is actually first in something, and this clown is trying to kill this program. We are number one in fortified roofs in our coastal communities.
Yes, and that's through that's through the Strengthen Alabama Homes project, which has done quite a bit. Like you said, we're number one. They work with the Department of Insurance, and they're the ones that basically contribute to this. Mr. Elliott wanted to add an amendment to it that he claimed was for transparency, and that was to disclose the amount of some of the bids that were being done. However, and he also said that his obstruction of the bill is not as nefarious as some may claim, despite Elliott builders being blocked from participating in the program 5 years ago, after Elliott was accused of repeatedly attempting to gain information that would give the company a competitive advantage. In Elliott's previous role as a home builder while he was Baldwin County Commissioner, he sought to see other contractors bid, but was denied. In 2016, the Department of Insurance wrote Elliott to notify him that Elliott Builders, Inc. was being removed as an eligible contractor from the program. In a November 2016 letter to Elliott from the Strengthen Alabama Homes director, Brian Powell, Powell said the program was severing the relationship after Elliott repeatedly attempted to gain confidential information the Department of Insurance believed would give him an unfair competitive advantage over other program contractors. We are not at liberty to provide you with this information as we must guard the privacy of our applicants, Powell wrote. You, Elliott, were informed of our decision regarding sharing this information, and yet we still received persistent requests from you for disclosures. Powell alleged Elliott intended to use the information in a manner that will not provide equal and fair treatment to program applicants, where he also ignored the request of applicants for bids and consequently delayed the award of grants and bids. Now, for the few applicants that Elliott provided bids for, that they received complaints regarding unprofessional behavior by Elliott and Elliott's staff in providing professional services. Now, when asked, Elliott now is distancing himself from Elliott Builders and said that that was his father's business, not his business. And he never did any jobs or made any application for Strengthen Alabama Homes. I'm telling you, if you elect Elliott again, people in Baldwin County, y'all are nuts. Nuts. This guy is.
Can we just put up a billboard right there over I-10 that says, if I can't bid rig, can't none of you sons of bitches bid rig. And
I mean, really, you need to read this article. This is absolutely preposterous that he's trying to stand in front of a bill where he was trying to gain inside information before.
So do you want to hear the most disingenuous part of this whole article that you missed, Paul?
Yeah, go ahead.
Quote, but Elliott said he has heard complaints about the program, period. Legislators in minority districts reportedly have concerns about equity, but Elliott said bids should be public. I mean, you know, the last thing that Chris Elliott has ever considered in anything
is accountability,
is our social equity in a program that, you know, so I need to talk a little bit about this program. Okay. So we have an entity here in Baldwin County called Baldwin County United, and it puts on the leadership program every year. And it's a civics class for professionals, emerging professionals. I went through it in 96 or something like that. So every year they have to do a project, and and a few years ago, we had a person that was in the program who sold corporate insurance. And so Leadership Baldwin County and the University of South Alabama at Baldwin County put on a series of symposiums about this fortified home and roof program. And that is why people took advantage of it, because they knew about it. When Sally came around, you know, a little bit more money, but I get to save a whole lot of money. And now the state is offering $10,000 grants.
Right.
But Elliott is mad at the the way I read this is Elliott is mad at the commissioner of insurance, and he's going to kill this program, period.
Right.
Yep.
Right. They wouldn't let him have inside information. So now he's in a position to strike back and hurt the bill. So that's what he's going to do.
Well, I don't know if that's the motive.
Bid rig it. Ain't none of y'all bid rig it.
Yeah.
All right. So I need to do Corona numbers real quick. 32.6 million infected in the United States with 580,000 deaths. Let's see. Our global numbers are pretty bad. 156,326,000 infected with 3,260,000 deaths. Pretty bad. And right now, India, they're, what can you say about it? Those people, it's one of the most densest places in the world, population-wise, and everybody lives in cities pretty much.
Dying because they
they're out
can't
of
get
oxygen.
Let me just throw this out there. This story just came out just a few minutes ago. But according to the Faulkner Foundation, or excuse me, the Kaiser Family Foundation poll that they recently conducted in this last week, the results just published today. Only 9% of currently unvaccinated Americans claim that they are seeking to get the vaccination. So 91% of unvaccinated Americans responded to this poll and said that they would not be seeking.
That's 91% of 40% of the country, because 60% of us have been vaccinated, right?
Correct.
Not
so you've
quite.
got a good 31% of this country that says they are not going to get vaccinated because they believe, well, among other things, that Joe Biden didn't win the presidency. I can say that
right.
with some relative.
They also believe in angels. They believe in angels.
And QAnon. Raise your hand if you just lost qualified immunity in the murder of Jonathan Victor. One of the best things that could have happened while I was gone on vacation is Mr. Hosmack now is going to be held accountable. And he lost the qualified immunity through federal court. I'm not going to read that whole thing on the federal court, but I will say this. This is one case where Mr. Mack is being hauled into court and federal court. We know of another case, another two cases that are coming right behind this, as well as a particular case that Harry and I have been working on for going on 8 months, which we are going to be discussing probably within the next 2 weeks, quite a bit. And it sheds some pretty bad light on Hosmack as well. I think that Hosmack is going to have a real hard time in 2022 if he runs for office, especially if any one of these two federal cases are settled beforehand. And, Mr. Victor was shot and killed for holding a fanny pack. Think about that.
Murdered.
He was killed for not following directions. Let's be clear about that.
Because he didn't follow directions. He was murdered by police.
Judge
murderers,
William Cassidy put his 2 cents worth in there, so we'll see how he comes out.
What do we have here?
They murdered the first round draft picks, didn't they?
They sure did.
Yes, they did.
Damn, I hate Alabama. I hate Nick Saban so much.
Oh, the entire ACC, the runners up, the Bush League to the SEC. No, buddy, Saban dominates.
Hey, what's that hanging on the back wall behind him? Is that a turtle shell?
Absolutely not. No,
I doubt it.
I seriously, that is probably an award from the MP, probably an award from the Zulu tribe, from the Maasai in Africa, for being one of the greatest hunters and victors in the entire United States for Coach Saban. I got to say that.
So what did we miss? Let us know. There are all our Twitter handles. And I guess we've come to the end of our time together, guys. Anything we left out?
I'm sure that there is, but we'll have to catch it up next time. And a lot of these issues are just dragging on more and more, the bridge, the waterfront. So we'll be talking to you again. Same thing with the coal ash. The coal ash is dragging on too. So we'll see what happens. But thank God we can now have liquor delivered at home.
I'm going to tell you right now, one of the good things about having a platform like this podcast is that you can rest assured that we are not just going to let something go. We will beat something to death as long as we feel like it's germane to you and this country, much like the Auburn University's national championships. We will beat that drum for that one national championship in the last 20 years. And we are not going to let you forget about it. And we will stay on it. We are all over the issues involving county, and we want to hear from you. So take some time, drop a comment, like and subscribe to this video channel on YouTube. Let us know on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever you've got. We are here, and we would love to entertain more comments from you and more feedback from you. I guarantee you the three of us do not just occupy this space to talk to each other and make each other happy.
Hey, I got one more thing for you. Y'all can't see what the diplomas say on the wall over here, but one of them's from Troy State, and Paul, you and I went and met with Cam Ward.
Right.
He's a former state senator, and he is the head of the pardons and parole program for the state of Alabama. And he has just been appointed to the board of regents of Troy State University, or Troy University now. They don't call it Troy State anymore. So good for you, Cam. Straighten it up.
He's got his plate full. And those of you that want to go online, you can go online to theripreport.com. Check out what we're writing there, or you can go to our Facebook pages, Backstory Podcast, Baldwin County Legal, or the Rip Report. And thanks for tuning in.
So this weekend is Mother's Day. Don't forget to send your mother flowers if you can't travel. Look at Reins' face. He's like, oh shit, Mother's Day.
And the balloons. Don't forget the balloons and foliage tomorrow. That ought to be absolutely gorgeous on a clear day tomorrow. That's down at OWA.
Okay, so here's the funny thing, Reins. The only public archery range is in Foley at this little park, and guess what they use it for when they're not doing archery? Hot air balloons. They have a big hot air balloon festival. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.